I'm Heather Christensen with Envisioneering. I appreciate the chamber having me. I think people are an organization's most important asset, but leveraging talent is its biggest challenge. So what I do is just help organizations with tools and systems to help leaders build high-performing teams. I like to joke that I'm a recovering engineer. Most engineers aren't in the people business as much as I am. But it's one of my favorite things to actually engineer is teams and talent because it doesn't follow any specific formula usually. So it's way more challenging than just making water run downhill, which water always does run downhill, right? So one of the things that we'll start off with is just some of the, some of the ground rules. Feel free to interrupt me at any time if you have a question. It's helpful if you mute your microphones at the beginning and then unmute them to talk. You'll figure out pretty quickly that you don't have it unmuted because no one will hear you, like what just happened. Jamie's going to be paying attention to the chat, and we're going to go over all of this, what the chat is, how to open the chat. But what I'd like to do is start with a poll first. So there should be something that pops up on your screen. And what I'm wanting to know is, what's your experience with Zoom? What's your familiarity? So that I get a sense of what you guys are looking for, because this was pretty challenging. This is a pretty big subject. Okay, hopefully everyone's had a chance to vote. And then when I end the polling, it should show you what the results were. Does everyone see that?
I didn't see anything, Heather. It's still on your Envisioneering screen.
Okay, I'm not sure why it didn't come up for you. Did anyone else have an issue with it?
I don't have it.
I didn't see it either.
Okay, it might be showing here, share results. How about that? Let me see.
Now I got it.
Okay. So this is what the polling screen looks like for me the whole way. And we'll talk about how to do a poll, how to set up a poll. It's a great way to interact with the audience, but it looks like most of us haven't been on Zoom plenty, and some have conducted meetings. So I've broke this down into two sections, really. The first section is just some tips and tricks interacting on Zoom, how you troubleshoot a few things. I'm not going to go into a ton of things on troubleshooting, but then we'll go into some presenting tips and tricks and how to set up some of that in advance. And then I'm hoping you guys have some questions too, because that's hopefully what you came to get answered, right? So we'll either someone on the call hopefully will know, I'll know, or I'll find the answer for you. Because I've run into quite a few questions that I had that Zoom's help is pretty good. And with that, I want to show you that before I forget. Zoom has its own help center. If you have an account with Zoom, when you log in, it's up in the corner. When you're in your profile, there's a support button up here in the right-hand corner. That will take you to this screen. And there are all kinds of, if you're a user or if you're starting to do some presentations, then this owner and admins is probably the section. But here's all the video tutorials, including setting up a meeting, all of that. And they're all very short, and they are on a variety of topics. So that's how I've learned a lot or done a lot of troubleshooting on the issues that I've run into. So hopefully that'll decrease the stress of, oh my gosh, I have a whole bunch of notes to take, because everything I say should be right in there. So with that, let's talk about interacting. The subjects I'm going to go on over real quick: logging on, video, how to do the chat, some of the etiquette. We're going to talk about etiquette, and I'm going to ask you guys what your opinion is too, because Zoom is kind of new to the general populace, at least as a regular office day tool. And so I think the etiquette is evolving. And then how to do reactions on the screen to try to interact with people. So logging on, when you log on, this is kind of funny because you probably saw these screens, but when you log on, all you need is the link, or you can sign into your web account, and under your meetings, right under this tab here, all of your meetings will show up. So then you can just join or start if you're the presenter. When it comes up, it'll have an option of joining with computer audio, which a lot of people are doing, but if you want to do a phone call, then that's the place to select it. You can test your speaker and microphone if things don't seem to be working. And then in your lower left-hand corner, there should be these buttons that toggle on either your audio or your video. If you want to start and stop video, you can do that there by clicking on that start and stop video. You can see that I have different microphones, different speakers. I even have different video. If you have an external camera or anything like that, then those things are all there. Obviously, this says end or leave here. You're able to end or leave the meeting by using that button. Questions so far? Okay, so another fun thing to do, so down where your video is here, I want everyone to try this. I want you to click on that up caret where that is. And pick choose virtual background. And then I want you to pick one of the options that are there. I picked the grass in the picture you're seeing here. But you can add, Jamie's got reindeer on, nice. So awesome, she's got quite a few. Barb's got, what do you have in the background there, Barb?
It's a photo of people social distancing at a bar on the East Coast, and they're all sitting in inner tubes.
Nice, and Michelle's got a pirate hat on. My video driver doesn't allow for all this, as much fun as you guys are having. I need a newer computer, apparently. But if you want to hide your background because you're at home or anything like that, there's even video that you can put on, virtual glasses. Nice. There's also to click if you have a green screen, or you can mirror your video here. So I say right, and I talk about right, or I talk about left to right, and you guys see right to left. If I mirror my video, it's going to show up as not looking like I'm in a mirror. So those are just some advanced things that you can do. Obviously, when you don't have a green screen and your video doesn't support it, you get this funky grass weird thing going on in my background there. Questions on that?
The image that you see is mirrored, but other people see it as reversed or normal?
I think so. What side is this for you guys? On what side of the screen is that? Is that the
Left.
right or the left?
Left.
Yeah, and that's my right hand. So if I wanted, I can mirror so that I don't have to overthink about, this is now my right. Does it look like my right hand now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a tendency when we're explaining things, you know, to go from in a progression. When you're presenting in person, you have to overthink it to go from right to left, right? So if you're trying to illustrate something or you're talk with your hands, it's helpful to be able to mirror your video that way.
So what happens if you don't have those virtual backgrounds that show up on your screen?
What do you have showing up on your screen?
I just have a block that says none.
It probably means that your video drivers don't support it on the computer that you're on.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Mine show up, but it's working today, which is super weird. It must be because it's dark out, but usually it's extremely funky for me.
I
So
think
another thing with
Barbara
video,
is trying to ask a question maybe. Are you raising your hand?
Yeah.
This might be a good time to show her how to raise her hand and Zoom
Yep.
too.
yep,
I
no,
know
you're
how to
fine.
do it.
Go ahead, Barbara.
I was just going to tell Dawn, I think the first time I did it, I had to download my backgrounds. It's just a couple extra steps.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Yes, I have that in here. First I'll talk about how to configure your video so you can see it. There's 3 different modes. If you, wherever people's faces are, if you hover over that, there'll be some options for you. And we have enough people on here, there's a grid option too. So if I want to see everyone at once, and it will only show me a certain amount depending on how large I've made the screen, then I select that grid. The stacked one, if you will, is more of a thumbnail and screen sort of option. So just toggle through those. You can find what you like. There's even one where it just says basically who's talking. But there's a presenter mode, which is just one person. There's kind of a film looking, a grid, and then just whoever's talking, no thumbnails whatsoever. We've talked about the backgrounds. We also have, that's how it looks when I'm in the picture and the video driver isn't working really right. So then chat, if you've never opened your chat, if you hover over your controls, sometimes it's too short. So you have to hit the 3 dots to get to chat. But if you open your chat window, you can drag it over to the side to dock it if you want. You can undock it by dragging it away. The one thing to know as a presenter is if I have a chat window, do you see that stuff's getting blocked out on the screen there? If I have a chat window over my presenting screen, it blocks what people are seeing. So you have to be careful where that's showing up. Jamie's watching our chat right now because I have a tendency to not watch it. But what I'd like everyone to do is there's an option to, when you have people in your waiting room, there's an option in here to be able to send a chat just to the people in the waiting room. You can send a chat to just one person. So if I'm going to send a chat to everyone, I can send it in that chat window if you have it opened up. So what I want you guys to do is click on that down caret and pick someone in the meeting and introduce yourself via chat. I want you to try to send a direct message. So you're going to click this down caret here where it says everyone, and you'll see a list of everyone in the meeting. You select whoever you're going to send a message to, and then type the message in that chat box. You can also attach files in here. And then I can control who's, that's what you see on the screen here. I can control as a meeting organizer, I can control who can send chats. I can block people so they can't send any chats. So once you're done doing that, if you select the down caret again and pick everyone, because it'll toggle to your last, whoever you sent a direct message to. What I want you to do is type in that chat box, what do you think, to everyone, what do you think the etiquette rules are for Zoom?
I probably wouldn't talk about any. Are we using the chat box? Sorry, I missed that instruction.
You can talk about it too. I just thought it'd be a
okay.
good opportunity for everyone to practice using the chat box. But tell me what you were going to say, Michelle.
Yeah, probably a big etiquette is, you know, if you, I just know this from working at another company that used internal chats. If you have a complaint about someone, maybe don't do it in the chat. Even because you can just accidentally send it to
Yes.
everyone, or, you know,
Yes.
I had a, yeah, that
You have to
happened.
be super
I
careful.
didn't write it. I was the recipient of someone sitting right next to me. It's awkward
Yeah.
and embarrassing for everyone.
Yes, yes, definitely. Got to be careful, especially if you've toggled to an individual message, or you can accidentally send what was an individual message to the entire group. There we go. Keep comments and chats professional. Barbara said different for large groups versus small. So what do you mean by that, Barbara?
I run and attend many different meetings, and like you were saying with the idea of muting, you want to keep everybody muted for sure in a large meeting. If you have 3 or 4 people, I think sometimes you get a little bit better flow on collaboration and idea. But once you get to about 6 people, you got to go back to the mute because people talk over each other all the time.
I agree. Yep. I've noticed the same thing. In your participants, and we'll go over that when we talk about presenting, there's an option to mute all. And you, as the host, can just mute everyone. Jamie, what did you say? Be aware of your surroundings.
backgrounds and your surroundings. Like, I suppose right now I could, if somebody were to come up behind me and, you know, was waving the back of my through the window, that would be a distraction for you. But luckily it's snowing and no one wants to be out there. So,
Right.
I think we're safe.
Right. Right. I've had some rather embarrassing things happen in the background because no one knew I was on a call. Kids waking up, walking around the house.
My husband tiptoes. And I mostly use a background, but he'll tiptoe. Are you busy?
Yeah. Are you on the call? I have a corner right by my office, and now people just peek around the corner and look at me like, are you on with someone I know? Are you? So yeah. The other thing I think is becoming, and this was something in my previous role with a company in town, I ran a remote team. So all of my managers were in Canada, the Midwest, or California, which might as well be a different state or a different country. And so we had a rule that everyone had to be on video because, and once it's kind of a cultural rule, it starts to be more pervasive. And I don't know if you guys were on the call, but you might have noticed Michelle said, I'm going to turn my video off because I'm going to eat. But most of the time people try to be on video because it's just more engaging and interactive to be on video to see people's faces. So I don't know if that's for sure a rule, but I've tried to make it a rule with the teams I work with as far as etiquette. The muting thing, one tip that I've found that I really like is once you're muted, if you press and hold the space bar, it acts like a walkie-talkie. So it unmutes you if you're muted. So why don't you guys try that, and you'll see in the picture that your little microphone goes off. So if you press and hold the space bar, one of my favorite little things. Yep. Anything I might have missed as far as what you guys think is developing as etiquette for Zoom calls? Okay. Let's move on then. So reactions, Jamie was talking about this. You gosh, where were those now? Where are those, Barb? You did it.
I think they moved.
They're in
You
the
have
next
participants.
to the leave button.
The what?
Next to the leave button to the left of that.
That's right. That's right. So there's, I can't do it, which is why I can't see it. But next to the leave button, there's, isn't it reactions? Is that the word it uses?
Yep.
Yep. So Jamie's got a celebration reaction. Dolores has thumbs up. Nice. Jamie's raising her hand, which is another really good thing to note. If you have a question, but you don't feel like you can interrupt, or like Barbara said, you're in a big meeting, it's pretty typical that you raise your hand, and that comes to the top of my chat window so I can see that there's a hand raised. It automatically floats you to the top so that the presenter can see. Okay, so that is all I have pretty much on interacting in a meeting or how to get on a meeting. Does anyone have anything else that they think, anything they like about Zoom or something they wish I would have covered? Go ahead. Dolores.
Sorry, I've had before where I could get the raising of the hand, but like today on this one, I don't get it. Does that happen? That you don't get all the reactions?
Apparently it happens. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, because I've got all kinds of other ones that I've never had before, but I don't have
Dolores,
the raising of the hand.
raising of the hand is under participants and reaction is something different.
Gotcha.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yep.
Yes, and I can see under my participant screen,
Oh.
which is another screen I'll show you,
Okay.
if your hand is raised. So let's go to presenting. We'll talk a little bit about scheduling a call, inviting participants, your waiting room, sharing your screen, and then polls and breakout rooms. So scheduling a call is really just done from your meetings on Zoom. There's a meetings tab when you have an account with Zoom. And then you're going to enter all of your information. And there's all kinds of options in there. Let me go into that just to kind of show you. There is a schedule a meeting on almost every screen, no matter where you're at in Zoom, up here in the upper right-hand corner. If you click on that, this is what you're going to see. It's going to make some assumptions about when you want that meeting. You can say if it's a reoccurring meeting or not. So if this is a standing meeting, if you're going to require registration, the more bells and whistles you put on this, what I've learned is the more opportunity there is for technical issues. So I don't change a lot of these. I don't use a passcode. I do use a waiting room. And during the pandemic, at first, Zoom wasn't requiring a waiting room. Now it's their default to have a waiting room because they were having people jump onto calls that, you know, weren't allowed on that call. You can have people join with the video on or off, but you're able to control what that default is. You can set audio options. You can allow participants to join at any time. You can pick here to mute participants when they come in. You can pre-assign a breakout room. We'll talk about that. You can automatically record the meeting. And then you can approve or block people from certain regions. And then I can set up alternative hosts. And I believe with Zoom, this is an additional paid. I think you have to have a specific subscription. Jamie's shaking her head, yes. I'm pretty sure that's the only way you can do that. I could make someone the host right now, but I have to get on the call first and then leave the meeting. If it's, you know, if I'm just, someone's using my Zoom. So that's setting a meeting up or scheduling a call. There's a variety of ways to invite people to a Zoom call. Once you have your Zoom call set up and you click on it in My Meetings, you will get this screen. And right over here is Copy Invitation. And all that does, it opens up a dialog box. You're able to copy it to your clipboard and you can send it in whatever manner you prefer. You can send it via email, you can send it via text, you can send it any way you want. Really all you need is the link, because once someone joins with the link, they have the option of logging in via phone. They have all this information that's at their fingertips, but you mostly just need the link. That will copy it for you and you can put it anywhere you want. I have built into Outlook this, you can see schedule a meeting or start an instant meeting with Zoom. So anytime I'm scheduling a meeting in Outlook, I just hit this schedule meeting and then I set up the time. It opens in an Outlook dialog box. It automatically puts all that Zoom information into there, into that email. And I have a Zoom meeting. There is a tutorial on Zoom on how to do that. I think it's probably diving a little too deep today, or I can help you. Barbara, you have a question or something to say?
No, it was a question I was just going to ask, and I think you answered it.
Okay.
That's something that you have to download to
Yes.
get it into it. Okay.
It's a plugin for Outlook. And it is super nice. I almost forgot how to schedule a meeting. Otherwise, I had to go back and look. Other questions about scheduling? Or starting a meeting as a presenter? Okay, waiting room. When you set it up with a waiting room, which, like I said, Zoom will default to setting it up with a meeting room, you'll have people, this is how you'll know people are coming to the meeting. You'll get this black dialog screen on your screen, and all you do is click admit to let that individual in. Or if you have your participants dialog box open, which you guys can't see that because you're not the presenter right now, but basically where your controls are, there'll also be well, you do have it. You do have participants. So you can click on that participants and then you're able to see all kinds of things. You're able to see who's presenting. This green dialog box means who's presenting. You can see that Bobby has his hand raised. You can see his microphone is off. You also can see if you're getting a lot of noise and you don't know where it's coming from, when you open this up, that microphone will be bouncing up and down on its level. That's where the noise is coming from. You can click on this, whoops, and mute your participant. Maybe they don't know how or haven't or forgot they were unmuted. You also have this mute all button here to mute everyone. And then you have these 3 dots where you can ask everyone to unmute. You have all these other controls to set up during the meeting if you didn't set them up in advance. The other thing is, if you're having a board meeting and you're concerned, you're having an HR discussion, anything like that, once everyone gets into your meeting room, then you can lock the meeting right here. And that means no one can enter after you lock the meeting, and you'd unlock it in the same place. But there are some meetings that are just sensitive that you want that extra level of control over the meeting. You still have the waiting room. It's not like someone's going to bomb in, but there are hackers out there or other people that might have the link that you don't think should be on there. So that's one way to keep it to just the amount of people you have. Questions about waiting room, participants, how to kind of control that? I have all that up when I'm presenting. Participants, chat. Terry.
I had a question about kind of some of the rules. Is there a way to turn off people's use of their other programs while they're on a Zoom call? I was on one and I couldn't open my email and things, and I was like, I wonder, do they have control over turning off my access?
Interesting. I do not know that. I will find out. Does anyone know if there's a way to basically control their computer or not allow them to? Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. Good question. Anyone else? I don't think there is, if I had to guess, but I don't know how else to explain that you weren't able to open anything. So
were you like in a full screen and you couldn't close out of the full screen?
I could do anything in Zoom, but I was trying to do some other things in other programs, and I don't know if my computer was being glitchy, but I didn't want to pursue too far because I kind of thought, do they are full attention, and they kind of turned off. So I was like, well, I'm not going to go there. I thought about it. I thought, well, maybe if someone knows if that's an option, but maybe.
I don't think it is. I think that would be a matter of almost privacy, but I can definitely see where I've had a hard time closing out of the full screen before if I had to open up another one.
yeah.
Sometimes it can be sensitive. So maybe that was the case.
That could have been it.
I've never used the lock feature, but I could see everybody being locked in the meeting.
Possibly. Yeah. The other thing I was thinking of is if it was internal to the organization, maybe there is a setup that they have, but I don't use the minimize as much. I use Alt Tab. If you hit Alt and then you hit Tab, it toggles through all your screens. And even when I'm in a Zoom meeting, if I want to jump over to something else, that's how I quickly do it. So I don't have to try to find that minimize button. But I'd be curious if that ever happens again, Terry, too, but who knows?
Is it something that's harder when you're like I couldn't get my volume button off, and I don't know. So I ended up just leaving the meeting because I'm at working from home. So I only have my laptop, but if I would have been in the office, I would have 3 screens then.
Yeah, right.
But so is that part of an issue too? If you're only working on one, then you can't get to that other stuff when you're on a meeting?
You can if you're on one screen. You still can
Mhm.
get to your other screens. But it'll obviously be right over the top of what you're doing or what you're, you know, what the presentation is. I don't know. Okay.
You know,
So-
with what Dolores just said, I think an older computer won't automatically toggle back and they'll be lost on that like extend display or duplicate display. I think sometimes they get lost on the other side. I work with one at church and we lose stuff on the other screen because of, and you have to switch your display in settings to go back and get it and drag it back.
Yeah, because it thinks there's an invisible second screen out there that it's sitting on. Yeah, that does happen with older computers. Newer computers, they collect all those once you, you know, disconnect from the extended display. They'll grab all your windows that are all out on those other displays and put it back on your regular one. But if your computer's being glitchy, you can lose those screens sometimes too.
Does joining Zoom with over the web versus in the app cause glitchiness? I know I used to just do it without the app and someone had showed me, yeah, you need to be doing it this way. And then it's like, oh yeah, it works much better.
I do not know that because I mostly join it. I don't even know how it's joining. I don't have the app. I don't have the app on my computer, but the link automatically just runs it's probably running through Internet Explorer because it opens an Explorer window first. That's a good question too. I don't know. I'm going to start asking people that when they have trouble, how they joined, kind of take an informal poll. Other questions? No? Okay. So sharing your screen. As a presenter, this is what the presenter ribbon looks like. There's some extra things like breakout rooms is here. And share your screen is right here when you're wanting to share your screen. And what happens when you click that button, if you've not done it, is you end up with all these. I have a tendency to be have a billion windows open. That's what's going on here. I have 12 windows open. And so I can pick any one of those, including picking a whiteboard and picking my iPhone or iPad. That also requires a plugin. And so if you want to share what's on your phone, you can. I believe there's a different plugin for Android. But I will show you what that looks like when you share the iPhone. It does require you also to hit screen mirroring on your iPhone. So this is, I have the Zoom application up on my iPhone. And that's what that looks like. So then I would be able to show you how to schedule a meeting in Zoom on the app. This also is a great place to go to your meetings. If you want to, down here at the bottom, it says meetings. If I wanted to copy if I just wanted to text it to someone rather than send it to email and get it on my phone and then forward it somehow. If I wanted to text the link, this is a great place to get the link. It's just straight from your phone to the other person's phone. The whiteboard looks like this. And you can draw all over it. Start a new page, draw on it some more, go back to the first page. You can, okay, Barbara's saying hi, which is really fun to try to mess someone up, because if you actually are allowed to draw also, then while they're trying to draw, you can totally mess them up. So questions about that? When you start to screen share, you have a lot more options, and you also have this stop share. You have the warning that you are screen sharing. There's a border that goes around the screen that you're sharing so that you can tell which one you are sharing. At least at first, that's what happens. And it hides itself. And so this is what you see once it tucks itself back into the top. But it moves once you start screen sharing from the bottom to the top. At least it does for me. And this is just another dialog box you end up with when you're in that whiteboard mode. There's all these different controls in the whiteboard mode that you have. Any questions on sharing your screen? Yeah, Terry, I think you're muted.
I've been in a lot of meetings where people are trying to share their screen and nobody's seeing it, or they're opening a PowerPoint or something, and we're just seeing kind of their opening it. We don't see the program running, and then they usually do some technical stuff, and then someone gives advice, and then they say, oh, just give me control, I know how to do it, or send me the link. So I'm like, how do you, I don't know if others have had that experience, but I don't want to get into a meeting where I'm seeing it on my end and nobody else is seeing it. What do you do then, or what aren't you doing?
What I try to do, obviously, get in the meeting early, start your PowerPoint early, get it up on the screen, and then I know everyone's seeing it. When I, let me go back to this screen. When I select the screen that I want to share and hit share, it puts a big green, I think it's green, border around the screen that you're sharing. You know people can see it when that is happening. I've never run into issues once that occurs. And so doing that before participants get on, or if I'm nervous about it, asking someone to get on early. Another thing that I do just as a rule is if I have someone I know on the meeting, I ask them to monitor the chat to make sure I'm not missing anything. So they get on early. I hand them over some control sometimes to the meeting as well, and then make sure they can see and hear me. So that's how I ensure it doesn't happen, or try to ensure. Anybody else have any things that they do, or any advice as far as that goes? I know Barbara has a question, but.
It wasn't so much a question as a statement when you had the annotate bar up. I do a lot of interactive meetings where we draw on the screen, and I invite my people to draw on the screen.
Yep.
And this feature right here, I use all the time so that you can save what people were looking at and thinking about. And then when I do my meeting notes, I take it back and I add that into the slides. So that's a really helpful feature.
Yes. The whiteboard, I think, is an ingenious thing for them to have on here. You can, we're recording this meeting now, but you also can save the chat. You can allow participants to save the chat or not. If you're recording the meeting, it automatically saves a chat also, the version of the chat that you had. And there's all these separate files, but they are definitely memory hogs. So I don't even keep them on my computer. Dolores?
I'm so new to all this just because I started my job in November. So how do you get the whiteboard? Not that I probably will use it a lot, but it really seems cool that I would at least like to know.
Yeah,
Is that something to download
definitely.
or?
Yep. So when you pick share screen here, you
Mhm.
get this dialog box and the whiteboard is right here.
Oh, so it's an automatic thing in Zoom.
Yep, in share
I've never
screen.
hosted a meeting, so I've never.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's it. That's where you find it. Barbara, you were going to say something too?
Yeah, I just was starting to type it actually. I've done another kind of preliminary Zoom meeting like this. And one of the things that they told us on that was be very, very careful of private chats because yes, they are private and nobody can see them. But if the meeting is recorded,
Yes.
Heather can see everything. So if I said to Jamie, can you believe the color of the background in her living room and it looks ugly?
Yep.
That's not a real thing, by the way. But Heather could see that afterwards,
Yes.
even though I don't think so.
Yes. Gosh, this is such a yawner presentation. Yes.
Yeah.
When you save the chat, it's in there. And if you allow others to save the chat, it's in there. So like Terry said, and like Barbara was saying earlier, keep it professional. Very good point. Michelle.
So it just reminded me, my sister was just telling me yesterday, she does training for a software company. And so she is on all the time. And as she was talking, she was remembering something our dad used to tell her, that she could talk to a wall. And as she was doing the training yesterday, she's like, everyone had their cameras off. I am literally talking to a wall and getting paid for it. But you know, another benefit when you are going through, you know, the trainer, that it's kind of a self-esteem thing for them to see your face. You know, if everyone turns their video off, they're like, okay.
Yep.
You know,
yes.
How do you get engagement then? So
yeah, right. Yeah, it's tough. I do ask people usually at the beginning to turn on their video if they don't have it on. And I do blame it on myself that I like to be able to see them. But it does help with interaction too. It really does.
I've been in meetings like that where it seems like you see a couple people take their video off and then it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do it too because I'm going to run and pick something or, grab something away from my computer. So it's just easier to not see me moving around or, but then I've had some presenters kind of re-engage them and say, okay, how are we doing? Everybody there, give me some feedback or do a quick poll or something to pull the group back.
Yep.
I mean, to me that I was like, oh, that's a good idea.
Yep, it is. Yeah. Awesome.
my favorite is camera placement when you see like this.
Right. I'm on video.
It's on.
Yep. Well, there's a reason they're requiring the kids to be on video. Now I understand there's, a little bit, it's a little easier to tune out when you're that age to a teacher talking. But it does increase the engagement and it increases what you get out of it, I think, too.
This has no value whatsoever, but my niece is a teacher and she does Zoom classes and she had to make a rule that you couldn't attend in your hot tub.
Worth a try. Dolores?
I guess I'm different. I guess my thinking is if I'm supposed to be in a meeting for an hour to 2 hours, I just need to get my stuff ready and I got to be sitting here and that's what it is. I mean, because if you were actually meeting in person, that's what you would have done.
Right.
So you should always be thinking that just because it's on Zoom doesn't mean that you shouldn't be ready and prepared. I guess I do the same with my kids when they get on. I'm like, all right, today was my first day of them going all back to school. So sorry. I don't have anybody bopping in. Otherwise, I usually don't do it at home if I don't have to, but they've been on my chamber event things, but I'm like, go away. You guys can't be on my stuff. And I'm like, I just they did the same thing. I'm like, you got to go to the bathroom, you got to get your water and have it all right there by you and just be ready. Because to me, I feel like you took time to be putting this together. I should be here and listening. That's
Right.
my 2 cents.
No, I agree. I think what Terry said rings true too. If it's going to be distracting to the group, it's completely fine to turn your video off and then turn it back on again out of respect for maybe the presenter or whatever. But you're trying to not be distracting, but there are distractions that enter your space that no one else can see. So Ken, you were going to say something?
Yeah, Heather, what do you do with the multitaskers? So if I'm on Zoom and I'm over here working on my computer and kind of listening to you, that's distracting, I understand, but do you send me a message in the chat saying, hey, Ken, pay attention? Or, because there's always one of those on a call.
I ask them a question, usually, to try to engage them again. If someone is just being, if you just don't think that that's the right thing to do because of the situation, if it's a distraction to everyone else, you do have the power to turn their video off. So if that would be a last case scenario, but I'd try to engage them.
Yeah, because I agree with Dolores. If you're sitting in a meeting, you're supposed to be in the meeting.
Right. Right. In the same way that you wouldn't sit at a boardroom table and turn around and start typing on your laptop behind you. But, in live meetings, you have people getting on their phones all the time. So you have to be able to, that's a similar distraction. Good question, though. Good point, Ken. Okay. We talked about screen sharing, breakout rooms. So breakout rooms in your meetings, if you click on edit the meeting, once you've set the meeting up, you can set them up in advance while you're setting the meeting up, or you can hit edit right here. And it'll bring you to a screen. At the bottom of that screen is breakout room. You can click that. That's breakout room pre-assign if you want to do it in advance of the meeting. You can import it from a Excel file, or you can create the rooms in advance. I've done all of these different things, and I found this to be kind of problematic in my opinion. And so most of the time I just create the breakout room in the meeting, which I'll show you how to do. But Michelle, you have a question or something to say?
I am just wondering. So I tried to do breakout rooms, the pre-assign, tried to do that for a meeting, but then it looked like it did it like for every meeting I was going to schedule after that. Is that kind of what it is, or was I not doing it right?
No, most of the Zoom features, it remembers for every meeting you do after that. So that can be a little bit aggravating. There's a way to, in the meeting, if you open it and you're like, this isn't even the right meeting, there's a way when you're in the meeting, I think you can clear all of those and then set it up in the meeting itself. Good question. So if you're in the meeting, on that ribbon of controls, you have breakout rooms that you can pick. And once you pick breakout rooms, you get this. Create however many breakout rooms. I can toggle up with however many breakout rooms I want to create. I can assign them automatically. I can assign them manually. If I assign them manually, it lets me click and drag them into rooms. It's pretty intuitive. Or you can let the participants choose the room. So I create 4 rooms. Everybody can go randomly to whatever room I want. There's ways to edit the name of the room once you've done this create. But once you hit create, you've made your selections and you hit create, there was only one person in this meeting, but you get room 1, room 2, however many you created. And if I don't like how that did, I can recreate them. I can add a room here. There's an options button. But once I hit open all rooms, all the participants are given an option to choose the room that they want to be in, or choose to move to the room. I'm sorry, said that wrong. So once everyone's moved to the room, I can see everyone joining the room in the same dialog box. And I get this. So Bobby didn't join. So I can see that he hasn't. When he has joined, it turns bold and shows that he's joined. I can send a message to everyone in the breakout rooms. I usually do that. 1 more minute, please wrap up your conversations. I can send that. Then once I'm ready, I can hit close all rooms. Once you hit close all rooms, usually it gives about 60 seconds, counts down. The participants are given an option to leave, or at the end of 60 seconds, it will close and move them back to the main meeting. As a presenter, you have the option of hopping in any of those rooms and joining. That's what this is. I would click on room 1, join. So then I can hop into room 1 and say, how's it going? Do you need anything? Any questions? The only thing I don't like about the way Zoom does breakout rooms is they do not, there's no screen sharing. So if I put a question up on the board or on the screen, and then everyone goes to breakout rooms, they don't have that screen anymore. Now, Zoom may have changed that, but I haven't, it's not my understanding that they have. So I tell people, if you want a screenshot of the questions or prompts, take it now before you leave and go to the breakout room. Michelle.
What is the broadcast message to all button on the bottom there?
So if you want to send a message to everyone that's out in breakout rooms, you click that, a little dialog box comes up and you can type in whatever. Any people will come out of breakout rooms to ask questions, things like that. And so then you can broadcast a clarification, whatever it is. It is 8:30. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. We have one more topic, so you can stay if you like. If you need to go, I believe my contact information was sent out. Jamie, was it? If not, you can get it. Yeah, if not, you can get it. Feel free to email me or call me. I'd be happy to help with whatever. I'm kind of a techie geek, so I've played around with it a lot. I'm definitely not an expert on the level of some of the Zoom people, I'm sure, but I've done quite a bit with it. So any questions? So if you have to leave, feel free. Thank you for coming. We'll continue. It'll be probably 5 more minutes at the most, but any questions on breakout rooms?
Can you extend the time of the breakout rooms, or do they just shut off with the time that you set up? Like if they say, oh, everybody done? Oh, we need more time. We haven't finished the project, or.
I can send everyone back to the breakout rooms. If I hit close all rooms and they had to come back and they weren't done. And they can send messages to you, I believe. I'm so rarely in a breakout room. Does anyone know if you can send, I think you can send messages to, if nothing else, you can do it in the chat. Say, wait, we're not done. Okay. Good question, Terry. So polls. Polls are tricky to set up actually, because if you click on the wrong spot, you can't find them. But for a poll, you have to set up the meeting in advance. And I always want to go to edit, then to add the poll. But if you want to add a specific poll, you have to click on this. Zoom 101 Zoom call basics, not edit. This will edit the meeting details. This allows you to edit polls. And once you've created a poll, it shows up as an option in every single meeting. It just keeps them on there. So my next meeting, I could ask everyone what their Zoom experience was. wouldn't be relevant, but they're all there. So when you click on that link, it brings up a dialog box. If you're the next screen, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, your polls are there. So this is what it looks like on my end with that poll being set up. All I have to do is hit edit here, and I can edit the poll. I can also do it on the fly in the meeting room. So all I do is go to the ribbon where polls are. I click on polls. It brings up my options or my polls, and I can add, you can't see this, but I'm bringing up another poll, and then I can hit edit on the right-hand side of that poll dialog box, and I can add options and launch the poll from there. Not a great way to do it if you're the presenter, but if you have someone helping you, they can be doing some of those things on the fly. So if you meant to put together a poll and you didn't, there is kind of a second chance in the meeting to be able to set those up. Questions or thoughts about polls? It's a great way to keep people engaged or interacting. So are breakout rooms. If you have a big meeting and you don't use breakout rooms, you're probably missing the chance to engage people in the conversation because it's just too big to talk one-on-one. That's all I have for today. You guys have any other questions or favorite tips or tricks in Zoom that we can help each other out with?
Are you going to continue with this in a series, or is this just one and done? Or
That's a very good question. What would you cover, Terry, if you were going to do a series? What would be
I'd
the
like to
next?
see more like webinars, how to do those maybe. But I think too, you know, like you said, going through the tutorials, self-teaching. But to me, just learning the space bar and you know, unmuting. There's tricks out there that I just haven't in my circle of people. I don't get to interact and talk to them about it. We get on it and use it, but you know, I feel like this is a common ground where it's kind of neat.
Yeah. Even I've wondered about a Zoom users group where you just got on and messed around with it with a big group of people. There wasn't really any particular content, but we just shared with each other the tips and tricks, or gosh, I can't figure out how to do this. Let's figure it out together. Barbara, what were you going to say?
Just answering your question, excuse me, I specifically came on this morning because I don't use breakout rooms and polls enough, and I wanted a little more information. So maybe a deeper dive into that might be something. I think I'm proficient at the basics, but not necessarily that. And then another thing for everybody else, and I don't know if they're aware of this, if you have the free version, you're not going to be able to do polls and breakouts.
Right.
If you have the paid version, you're going to be able to do polls and breakouts.
Yep.
So sometimes I sign in under my own name, and sometimes I sign in under Ag and Associates, and that's the difference.
Yeah, and one thing we didn't talk about even is changing your name. You can click on your name. I'm sorry, not click on your name. Click on the 3 dots beside your name, and you can, I believe, edit, rename. So you can name yourself Mickey Mouse. You can name yourself whatever you want. So you can change your name that appears now on the. So if you're using someone else's Zoom and it logs you in that way, you can change your name.
I have a question of when you're on the, like the paid one, like, or like right now, like we went over the time,
Yep.
it doesn't cut you out, it's still fine to go over, or how does that
Yep.
work? And how long can it go over on a day?
I've accidentally had it running for a full day because I logged in, and then because I was logging into the meeting to make sure everything was set up the way I wanted, and then I went out, and I was doing that the day before. And so there's some funny things that can happen, but you can go in, end the meeting, then go back in the next day, as long as it's still there. And it's kind of always still there because in here you have your upcoming meetings, but then you have previous meetings. And so with the paid version, I've been able to log in at any time. That's a good question, though. It does not bump you off. And I don't know what the time limit is. I imagine they eventually kick you out. But you can see that now, since the 8:30 time period is passed, it thinks I'm in this meeting, even though it's not noon. That's just my next meeting. But it doesn't affect the recording or anything like that. It's still there.
I have one on recordings just for everybody. So I have clients that I record meetings for, and we've had, I'm going to say 2.5-hour meetings at 7 o'clock at night. And I can tell you that the buffering and the saving of that takes a good solid
Yes.
3 hours, maybe, depending on, like, I'm broadband when I'm at home. And so that takes a long, long time. So I always tell people that the video will be available tomorrow.
Yeah, once you end the meeting and it starts to create the video or whatever, change it into a file that's manageable. It does take some time, especially if you're saving it to your computer. And Zoom will let you save it on their format, but they only allow you so much, and then I'm sure they want to charge you for that. Because I ran out of space on mine and stopped saving up to them. Terry.
I need to leave, but if you do decide to have a breakout group with either this group or someone else, please keep me in the loop.
Will do. Will do. Thanks for coming. I can let everyone else go too. We'll talk, Ken and Jamie, about how you guys want to do that. Maybe at a later date, but thanks for coming, guys. And